Welcome, friends. This is Brevity Sports, coming at you from our caves where we talk major news in major sports. Here with my co-host, Big Z, and myself, Fredo Lay. Welcome, everybody. We are back. It is Brevity Sports. Thank you so much for listening. Tell your friends, tell your family. Again, we are Brevity Sports. We're coming out with episodes weekly. Make sure you are here. We're typically out on Wednesdays. So, we're here to get you over the hump. As always, I'm joined with my boy, Big Z. Big Z, say hi to the people.
What's up, y'all? Glad to be back. As always, love talking with you guys. Baseball is heating up. Love it. Was watching a couple of games tonight. Our Orioles versus the Blue Jays went extra innings. Mariners, of course, the Dodgers, of course. But love it. And some great storylines are starting to pop off in the NFL. Can't wait to talk to you guys about those tonight.
Oh, yeah. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Listen, you got to keep it right here, okay? Like, it is popping off in baseball. If you're not watching baseball, you got to get to it, man. There are some good games. The race getting into these playoffs is absolutely insane. We got a fun episode coming for you tonight. We're talking some NFL. We're talking some fantasy football. We're talking some MLB, all sorts of fun stuff. Jumping right in, there was a pretty crazy conversation that happened last week. Ryan Clark, ESPN, goes off and says that Pickens is more talented than Jefferson. When asked about this, when he was apparently shocked by the uproar this created, which in my mind, I don't know that anyone should be surprised when you compare Pickens to Jefferson, but somehow he was. And not only was he surprised, he defended his position. He said, look, Aaron Rodgers, he did the greatest cop-out. I've heard this argument about 1 million times. Every time I hear it, it's stupid. Oh, well, Aaron Rodgers is more talented than Tom Brady, and but I think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. And they just hide behind his word talent. So, Big Z, we're going to tackle this tonight. First of all, we're going to compare Jefferson and Pickens because we have to, right? Because if we're going to judge talent, if we're going to judge ability, on some level, it should reflect in the outcome in which the sport you are playing. Right. So, like, if you're more talented than somebody else, I feel as though on some level that's going to come to the surface with how you play the game. Right. Because that's what we're here to talk. We're talking about playing the game. Right. Like, that's ultimately what we're talking about. There's a ton of talented people that are sitting on their couches because something went wrong at some point in their life, and they are not on Thursday Night Football. They are not playing on Sunday when at some point they were expected to be that person. And those people might be more talented, quote unquote, than some of the people that we see on TV. But if you are that talented, if you have that much ability, in my opinion, I think you're in the game. I think you're doing well. I think you're playing. So, Big Z, first and foremost, Jefferson versus Pickens. I mean, do I even need to agree with Ryan? Like,
to me, there's obviously no debate. Like, it's 100%, 110% Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is by far the more talented player, in my opinion, the more talented player. He produces more on the field. If you're comparing rookie seasons between Justin Jefferson and George Pickens, Justin Jefferson had 88 receptions compared to Pickens 52. Justin Jefferson had 1,400 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, compared to Pickens 801 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. And people will say, well, Justin Jefferson had Kirk Cousins and George Pickens didn't have, a starting quarterback. Justin Jefferson was able to make plays down the field. He was able to create separation. That's also another stat that is huge in this debate. Justin Jefferson has 4,852 career receiving yards within the first 3 seasons of his career, the most by any player before turning the age 24. While facing multiple double teams, triple teams, defenses all surrounding him. There's a reason why George Pickens has to make those great one-handed catches. It's because he cannot get separation from the cornerback. That's also another issue. So Justin Jefferson, like I said, he's able to create this separation, and George Pickens is not able to. And I'm not saying that Pickens is bad and that he's not going to be able to create that separation down the line, but right now, where it stands, Jefferson is so much better. Clark went on to say that Pickens is bigger, taller, stronger, more physically gifted, more explosive, that he jumps higher than Justin Jefferson. But if you look at the two's stats during the combine, Justin Jefferson far outweighs George Pickens. When you're looking at weight, Justin Jefferson was 7 pounds heavier than George Pickens. When you're looking at 40-yard dash, Jefferson was faster. When you're looking at the 20-yard split, Jefferson was faster. When you're looking at the vertical, Jefferson had a 4.5-inch higher vertical jump than George Pickens. So if you're basing talent off of his physical abilities, Ryan Clark, you obviously didn't do your homework and you're made to look out like a fool right now. Talent is subjective, right? And it's really
100%.
not, it's really not defined. And so the way that he was talking about this and the way he really weaseled out of his argument, just another wet noodle take by another ESPN analyst. And it just makes him and that whole network look bad. And there's just no one can take them seriously after that take. It's terrible.
I mean, if you are going to have a take like that, go Skip Bayless on it. You know what I mean? Like, go Stephen A. Like, stand by it, stick to it, and tell everybody you'll see in 3 years. Like, in 3 years, like, put a timeline on it, stamp it, and then be wrong in 3 years. That's what sells for those guys. The key for me was 1,800 versus 800. Okay, listen, Kirk Cousins is not elite. No one can convince me that Kirk Cousins is an elite receiver or an elite quarterback in this league. Okay, they got dismantled in the playoffs. Okay, he could not hit Jefferson to save his life at all by the Giants. Dude, Kirk Cousins is not a great quarterback. 1,800 versus 800. That's 1,000 more yards that Jefferson had. Whatever talent is, 1,400. Sorry, 1,400.
600 more, but still a lot.
That's right. Whatever Jefferson had, whatever he's doing, I want that. I don't care what you call it. You call it whatever you want. That's what I want. Right? It's not as if the Steelers were not trying to throw the ball. Yes, they were a running heavy team between Najee, and what they had going on over there. But again, 600 yards. It's not close. And you're looking at a guy who carried his team. We don't even know that Pickens is the best receiver on his team. Johnson is still there. He may not even be the most quote unquote talented guy on his team. So what I had to do is I had to look this thing up, right? Because I mean, if we're gonna talk about this, let's look it up. What is talent? Okay, according to Webster, all right, special, often athletic, creative, or artistic aptitude. Or B, a general intelligence or mental power. That is what talent is, okay? So after hearing those definitions, like there is no other word for this than disrespectful. Like, I watched Justin Jefferson put on a show against one of the best teams in the league, in the Bills, in Buffalo. Right? We watched that at the end of the season for them to keep their season going, for them to do what they were going to do. Jefferson comes up in big moments. He is unanimously the dude in the league right now. The only guy who's even remotely challenged him recently was Cooper Kupp in terms of numbers. And then Cooper Kupp went down last year. We'll see what happens this year. But really, you're talking about 1, 2, maybe 3 guys in Tyreek Hill. Maybe Jamar Chase. Maybe there's 4 guys that are in that top tier. I mean, when you're looking at, especially in the fantasy world, as we break everything down, obviously, right? We're looking at guys like Saquon Barkley, right? Bijan Robinson, right? McCaffrey and Eckler. And yet, how talented is Jefferson? He is like anyone who takes Justin Jefferson with the first pick, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Right? Like, nobody's calling them an idiot. Like, nobody's going to sit here and say, like, oh, Justin Jefferson, how could you take it? How could you take McCaffrey over? And we all know how incredibly talented McCaffrey is, how many times McCaffrey's going to touch the ball, how much Eckler means to that team's offense, how much Saquon has done for the Giants. We've sat here on this podcast, we've talked about Saquon is that offense. And yet, when you take a guy like Jefferson, and yes, I'm not saying it's all about fantasy football, but I think when you look at fantasy football, especially in a showy position, right, there's no way for fantasy football to tell us who has a great O-line. You know, I suppose if the quarterback is a running quarterback and he, like Justin Jefferson last year, or Justin Fields last year, and he like runs off 80 yards and just keeps ripping off yards, his O-line falls apart, I guess maybe. But really, I mean, fantasy football is built around these skill positions, the running back, the wide receivers. These are the guys who bring you in the points. And now, obviously, some of those quarterbacks are changing some of that dynamic for the first time in God knows how long, right? I mean, for years. Stay away from quarterbacks first 4 or 5 rounds. Stay away from quarterbacks. This is the first time we're seeing them really break in consecutively. So in a in a game that is primarily built around these skill positions, for this guy to be number one, I think that says everything you need to know. Picking somewhere 4, 5, or 6. I mean, really, how are you going to compare these guys and then stand by it? It's just disrespectful. Jefferson does it all. I love this idea of like, he's a savant of the game. He's a savant. He understands the position. Listen, I got in an argument. I think you were in the text group. I was like, listen, even to his backup, even to his whatever, there is no world. If you put Aaron Rodgers on the Patriots with that same team that Tom Brady has, they win 1 Super Bowl. Like, Aaron Rodgers to me has the same career. Like, I don't think that's even a hot take. I think Aaron Rodgers finds a way to piss everybody off, to get into with Bill Belichick. Very just explosive situation. Not good. It's all about him. It doesn't work, right? Like, I'm proud of what he's doing with the Jets. We've talked about it on this podcast. We're pumped. We hope he does well. That was not our experience with Aaron Rodgers up until this year. I don't think he was rattling off 6, 7, like Tom Brady. He's not rattling off that many Super Bowls.
Tom Brady didn't have Devontae Adams. Tom Brady did not have Aaron Jones. Do you really think that if you flip the script, that Aaron Rodgers, with the teams that Tom Brady had, with Rob Gronkowski just diminishing as a player in his talent, yet he was the best player on that field? Wes Welker was his best receiver. Do you really think that Aaron Rodgers was really going to take that team to 6, 7 Super Bowls? No, it's because of Tom Brady's greatness, his leadership, his talent, correct? So it's a crazy argument. I don't like that. And like you said, you're just disrespecting Justin Jefferson. I don't even know why Justin Jefferson came into Ryan Clark's mouth to begin with. Like, maybe when you're talking about Odell Beckham Jr., a guy who, his second 2 ACL surgeries, like, yes, that's a good comparison there. But we're talking about Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receiver in the game. And you could say that he is one of the guys who is just holding the game of football up. When people think of the NFL, they think of Justin Jefferson because he's that good. He's that talented. If we're using just physical traits to describe talent, what are we doing? What are we doing? That has nothing to do with the production on the field.
Nope.
It doesn't.
And even then, there's arguments to be made. Aaron Rodgers has such a stronger arm than Tom Brady. Why? Because he could flick the ball 10 more yards. Tom Brady was able to hit slants over and over and over when everyone knew they were coming. He was just wiring the ball in. Listen, like, physical, quote unquote, if you're going to talk about anything, physical ability, it's just not a good indicator overall of what your game is going to be like. Every year, there are more talented players than other players. Look at if it was all about
Jackson.
Look at Lamar Jackson
as a quarterback.
If it was all about physical ability, Cam Newton would still be a starting quarterback right now. No one can convince me that he would not be starting over Mac Jones, but physical ability means very little in quite a few positions. Like, if you don't know how to run your routes, it doesn't matter. Outside of like Tyreek Hill, she's like, dude, run down the field and then look for the ball. Like, he's probably the one dude, right? Like, he's the one guy that's just so fast. It doesn't matter. Everyone else, like, you have to know your route. You have to know the game plan. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know where the defense is. There's so much more than just physical ability. And that's not taking away from NFL players. It's adding to NFL players. They have to understand the game. They have to study tape. When, what's his name? The recent video that came out or documentary that came out about not Baker, the guy before him, Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel, about him not studying tape. Are we surprised? No, we're not surprised. Of course, he didn't study tape. He probably had the quote unquote God-given ability to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He proved that at Oklahoma. He proved that by being a very special talent in college football. He did not study the game. He was missing pieces. He did not grow. He did not develop. And that's what you need to do to stay in this game. It's not about physical ability at all. Listen, Big Z. Before the season starts, we got to talk about it. Give me your Super Bowl favorites, man. Give me your Super Bowl favorites. And then before the season starts, don't worry, people. This is not official. Like, we're gonna keep talking about it. Right before opening day, we're gonna drop these are your division winners and these are your Super Bowl winners. Like, we're gonna break it down. But right now, I just want to know where your head's at, dude. I want to get a little sneak peek into your mind, Big Z. Who you got in the Super Bowl, man?
Well, speaking of homer takes, like Ryan Clark's homer take about Pickens.
Okay.
I'm going 49ers, of course.
All right.
But actually that makes sense, as they have the best defense in the league, a lot better than the Cowboys defense, as some people would say.
Jason the Showman Strowman is somewhere
and-
just weeping right now. He's weeping.
And a great quarterback in Brock Purdy. I said it. He's going to be great. I have them versus the New York Jets. Woo! The New York Jets. I'm all in. I'm buying into the Hard Knocks. I'm buying into that Aaron Rodgers, but the Niners will beat them 21-17 in a defensive battle because there are two great defenses, and the Niners will win it. They'll pick off Rodgers in the end to seal the deal, baby. Let's go.
That was huge. That was huge. We're posting that. We're posting that on all of our social medias. Everybody,
Let's do it, baby.
I want everybody to hear that take. Dude, it's not a homer take because I also have the Niners. I think they're going to be just a little bit too much for Philadelphia. I think they have their guy in Brock Purdy. I think that he brings a certainty to that team that they've been missing, right? I think this year he's going to show everybody. In the preseason, I like what I've seen. His ability to throw the ball further than 20 yards. I think it's going to be great. He's actually got some semblance of a deep ball, which, look, I like Jimmy G. He did not like to throw the deep ball. So if you actually have a quarterback that's willing to launch a little bit and then still hit the unders, it's going to be very dangerous. And this dude, again, what we just talked about, Purdy is in this position because he was ready for the moment, because he was studying tape. He was furthering himself. He was Mr. Irrelevant. And so he just kept working, kept developing, kept studying. I have no doubt that chip on the shoulder is massive. He is going to ball. I think they're in the Super Bowl. I do not have the Jets in the Super Bowl. This is a heart take. This is, I'm not even their fan, but I'm just rooting for them. And when we actually make like official pick, I don't know if this will be it, but just in my heart of hearts, I'd love to see it. The Bills. I'd like to see Josh Allen get there. They're going to lose. They're going to lose to the Niners because I do think I think this is the Niners year. And I'm a Rams fan. I'm not a big Niners guy. I don't like them, but I got a lot of respect for their game. But the Bills, I'd like to at least see them get there. I'd like to see them come over Kansas City. And honestly, if you're a Kansas City fan, this ain't your year this year, okay? It's just been going on for too long. All right, it's just not your year.
Forget it.
You can't
forget it.
You can't. They haven't added enough pieces, and I get it. Why don't break something that don't fix what's not broken. You know what I mean? I hear it. I hear all the haters coming in and saying like, oh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Listen, I know that Mahomes and I know Kelsey are special together. At some point, somebody's going to figure out how to take them away. And you didn't add any pieces. You got to hope Kadarius Toney stays healthy. I think Rice is another young receiver that they're discussing right now. Sky Moore. So if Mahomes can figure out those pieces and get these guys to actually get up to where they're supposed to be, they're going to make me eat my words. But until that happens, I just don't see it for them this year. I think a lot of people are coming in angry. You look at the Bengals, the Bills, and of course, as you mentioned, the Jets. I love it. We will make our official picks very soon. Moving right along, fantasy football. If you've already drafted, we hope you did great. Let us know who you drafted. Send us your team. Yeah. Slide into our DMs. We'd love to give you some feedback. We love fantasy football. We're those freaks. Like, we're the rare guys that you talk to that want to hear about your fantasy team. Like, so many people are like, dude, I'm telling you, we're those rare guys that, like, when you're excited about your fantasy team and you're like talking to your wife and like, oh my God, or your girlfriend or like your friend, you're like, yeah, look at this team that I just got. Oh my God, this is amazing. And like, I don't care who's on your team. We care. Like, I want to see. Oh my God, you got this guy in the 6th. Whoa, no way. So tell us about it.
Listen to you.
Message us. Yeah. Let us see it. We'll give you feedback. I love it. I love hearing about it. I love seeing what people do in their leagues. Yeah. But thing has to be asked, Big Z. So who is on the rise? Who is on the rise? And for me, I'm going to launch right in because I'm excited about this dude.
Tell me, bro.
I'm getting him in a bunch of my leagues. Okay.
All right.
Justin Fields, man. The more I get closer to the season, the more in I am on Justin Fields. It just feels like watching the preseason game, him hitting DJ Moore on a little out route and then DJ Moore just running down the field for like a gang of yards and a touchdown. It's like, dude, if this guy has Darnell Mooney, I know Darnell Mooney's still on the mend, but if he has Darnell Mooney and Herbert and Foreman, he's got all these guys in his backfield and DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, and he's actually got weapons, and they leveled up their O-line, right? Their 10th pick overall this year was an O-lineman. If they can actually keep this guy up, Get him to run the ball, accept who he is. I just think this guy has an absolute opportunity to go on a tear. Last year, he only threw for 2,242 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. I know that's not great, right? 2,242, that's not amazing, but he ran for 1,143 yards. And he had 8 touchdowns on the ground. And again, that was with the Bears switching their mentality about halfway through the season. Like, they did not start there. They decided, oh, no, we're going to do, this is going to be our offense. And then all of a sudden they actually looked out on the field and said, okay, went out and got this kid. What is he good at? Oh, he's a freak. He's really good at running with the football, and he's really good outside the pocket. And as we know now, he's got a pretty mean deep ball as long as somebody can get down the field. He's going to level up. This is a guy, you can get him in the 4th round. And I'm telling you right now, next year, if he has the year that I'm thinking, and if everything rings true, right, like what we're saying, Patrick Mahomes is going in the 2nd. Allen is going at the end of the 2nd. Hurts is going in the 3rd, right? Fields is one of the last guys taken off. Usually he's going right after Lamar Jackson. At the end, by next year, you could see that flip-flop. You could absolutely see that flip-flop. I'm not saying he's going to win the Super Bowl. That's not what I'm saying. But for fantasy football, he might win you your championship because the Bears are good enough to contend for a playoff spot this year. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but they're good enough to contend for a spot, so they're going to be there. So I don't think there's a situation this year in which Justin Fields all of a sudden finds himself on the bench. You know what I mean? And so that is an amazing talent. I love it. Big Z, who you got on the rise? Who you got on the rise, man? Who you looking for this year?
Well, as a 49er fan, I like to go to deep dive into my own division, right? Just to teams I'm on the lookout for, like who's on the rise.
Ooh, here we go.
And as a Niner fan, like I said, the Seahawks are the team that I'm a little weary of, not scared of, a little weary of, that they could, give us a little, little challenge for that divisional crown. But when you're looking into that team, there's 2 receivers on that team that really stand out to you. You have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
Okay.
I think, in my opinion, that DK Metcalf, he's going in the 3rd round, late 2nd, early 3rd. I think that is, you are overpaying for him at that price.
Yep.
You need to go. There's plenty of guys. Jamar Gibbs from Detroit, he's in the 3rd round. Like that, guys like that, you should go after. Tyler Lockett is going in the 7th round. He has an ADP on Sleeper of 71.5 right now. So that means he's going in the 7th round or later. DK Metcalf has consistently outscored, Tyler Lockett has consistently outscored DK Metcalf the last 3 years in fantasy football. He has more receiving yards. He has more receptions. He has more touchdowns. He is 5 years older than DK Metcalf, but he's the guy, especially for that price. Go get him in the 7th round, leave DK Metcalf alone in the 3rd, and figure out another guy that could really be useful to your team. If you need a running back, it depends on what your approach is, but maybe a guy like T. Higgins. There's tons of different guys in that round that you can really go get besides DK Metcalf. So Lockett's the guy on the rise for me. I think he's going to be a steal for sure.
He's going to be a steal, and he's going to stay healthy because we all know he is the best. He is primero at missing tackles. He will catch the ball and just slide down. He's going to be healthy. He's not trying to take hits.
You have Geno Smith, who can run around in the pocket a little bit, can get away from tackles, and will allow Lockett to get down the field, behind all those safeties when their eyes are really on Geno Smith. And with Geno Smith, he proved last year that he is very capable of running an offense under Pete Carroll. So look for him to emerge even better than he did last year. And I think that's a steal at that. It's
gonna be the year of the OGs. I'll tell you another guy that's very similar to me is Keenan Allen. He is. Right. You do have to pay that higher price. I believe he's going to the 3rd round right now, but I was listening to the footballers the other day. We love the footballers. I'm not trying to take their stuff. I'm literally telling you the footballers is where I learned this. This is not original. Just want to be clear. This guy, he played in half the games that Amon-Ra did, and yet he had Amon-Ra St. Brown, another guy that I love. I'm not trying to take a shot at Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I did not know that Keenan Allen actually had more top 25 finishes last year than Amon-Ra did the entire year, and he was out. So these guys, Lockett, Keenan Allen, just because they're older, there is value there. Go find that value. You got to find it. You got to do it. And then on the flip side of that, guys to look out for. I already talked about Ramondre Stevenson on the last podcast. If you didn't listen, go back and listen a couple podcasts ago. Listen, Ramondre Stevenson, he struggles on the goal line. Okay, we talked about it. Zeke Elliott is not who he was. I agree with you. If you're listening to this podcast, you're like, dude, they got a Zeke Elliott. Relax. He's not the guy. Zeke ain't the dude no more. Listen, he's not the guy anymore, but he is the guy in one aspect. Last year, there was one thing that he did really, really well, and that was get across the goal line. Pollard would move them 80 yards, and Zeke would move him 20. We saw it time and time and time again. So Ramondre was a guy that I already told you to be on the lookout for. Joining him on that list for me is another running back, Najee Harris. And for me, it's not about Najee as much as it's about Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is an extreme talent, and we know that Mike Tomlin likes to win games, and he loves his running backs. He likes dudes that are big and physical, can run up the gut. And Najee, don't get me wrong, he's a strong dude, likes to get around the edge, but Warren will go right up the gut. He'll attack you. He'll do whatever he's got to do. He ripped off like a 60-yard run in the preseason. I don't care who you're playing against. When you rip off a 60-yard run, you're putting the league on notice. It was extremely impressive. If you're a Najee Harris guy at the start, even of this year, at the start of drafts, Najee was going somewhere around the early second for a while there. He's now fallen all the way to about middle in the third, and I think that's for good reason. Now, having said that, Najee still does have value. If you're in the fourth round and all of a sudden you're seeing a guy like Najee, like go get that dude. Okay, like in the fourth round, go get him. There obviously there's a line at which, Ramondre, same thing. I'm not taking Ramondre in the second. I will get him in the third or fourth. I'm not taking Najee in the second. I think about him more in the fourth. I'm not taking him ahead of guys like Gibbs. That's just my take on it. Big Z, who you got to look out for. Maybe they're not. Maybe everybody's hyped on him. Maybe they were hyped at some point. And now it's like, hey, you know what? Be a little cautious with this guy because we don't know what we're going to get.
Like we talked about last week, I'm going with Breece Hall. I just think the arrival of Dalvin Cook really hurts his value. Even though he's healthy, I think it's just going to be a committee thing. You can't really, you're never going to know who's going to get the bulk of the carries, the bulk of the passing downs. So with Dalvin Cook there, Breece Hall, he probably drops, 1 to 2 rounds for me. I say do not draft him no earlier than round 5, in my opinion. He's great. It's not, this isn't nothing against him. It's just the emergence of Dalvin Cook into an offense with Aaron Rodgers, someone who knows how to utilize his running backs. A veteran who's used to carrying a team on his back. It's not Breece Hall's year. It's not. So I would watch out for him. If he was a round 2 guy, don't draft him there. Like if he's there in round 5, round 6, yes, but do not overpay at round 2 or 3.
Well, the other problem with a guy like Dalvin Cook is when Breece Hall gets back, I know he's talented. I know how much guys like the footballers are in on him. Listen, I know he's a freak. I know he's fast. I know he's big. I know he's strong. I know all those things. What I also know about him is he's been injured already, right? And this is a bad injury, okay? It's an injury that, he's hurting. We know he's not going to be there for week 1, right? And the Jets are going to be cautious with him. The other thing that you have to look at is Dalvin Cook is not a slouch. This is not Ezekiel Elliott coming up. Dalvin Cook just got done having a fantastic year. Did he lose a step? Yes. But when you look at a backfield with Dalvin Cook, Michael Carter, Breece Hall, yes, Breece Hall took on the starting role against Michael Carter. But again, Michael Carter was capable. It wasn't as if, Breece Hall would wave, Carter comes in, and then Carter comes immediately out. That was not the case, right? So Dalvin Cook even more so. And when you're looking at a guy like Aaron Rodgers, listen, Aaron Rodgers, I know, everybody listening, he's doing great in New York. We're all very excited about it. He still likes his vets. There is a reason he had them go out and get his receiver Lazard. Like there is a reason. He likes that familiarity. He likes his vets. He likes his older dudes. He likes his old dogs that he knows exactly what they're going to do day in, day out. He's seen it a million times. So I think they could have a special connection. Especially if Dalvin, that's on the flip side of that. If Dalvin keeps falling or not going up, somewhere around the 5th, 6th, 7th, take a look at him. Take a look at him. Right. If there's value there, you got to take a look at him. If nothing else, at least you can go ahead and trade him. Moving right along, Big Z. Tell me about some baseball, dude. It is so much fun watching baseball right now, Big Z. I just feel like every game, it's almost like playoff mode right now is locking in. All the teams are like, they know really this. It's win or go home right now. It's either we turn this thing around. Look at the Diamondbacks. Less than a couple weeks ago, we were like, dude, they're done. They're done.
Yeah, they heard us last week. And
Yeah.
now they've won 8 out of 10. Like they're what are they? They're beating the Rangers as we speak, 6-3 right now in the top of the ninth. Like they're about to sweep the Texas Rangers, who are in first place in the AL West. Like that's incredible. Like they were playing the worst baseball of the season. They had lost 7 in a row. Like their season was just tumbling out. And now all of a sudden, now they are back in the wild card race. They're tied for the lead with the Giants. They could overtake them tonight if they win, which is awesome. I have my eyes on the AL West right now, which it's insane. We had the Mariners winning 8 in a row, sweeping the Houston Astros this last weekend. They just took the first 2 of their series against the White Sox. The Rangers, Houston Astros, and Seattle Mariners are separated by 1.5 games for the AL West lead. I love it. I know that they're all going to be playing each other also down the stretch because they're in the same division. So that's something really to keep your eye on. I love the NL Central as well. You have the Brewers, the Cubs, the Reds. They're all separated by only 4 games. Yeah, 4 games seems like a lot, but when you come down to it and at the end of the season, those divisional players or teams, they play each other at the end of the season. So, there could be some movement there, which is really, really great. I love it. And also the AL East. The Braves are only 2 games back of the Orioles. They're starting to get their season a little bit back on track again. So that's awesome and fun to watch. One team that has just fallen completely out of contention is the New York Yankees. They've lost 9 in a row. They're 60-65, which is the worst they've been since the 90s at this point in the season. Man, both New York teams are just sputtering out of control right now. I don't know what they're going to do at the end of the season. Aaron Judge is probably regretting re-signing with them for so long because, wow, they just look bad. They just look terrible. They're getting swept by the Nationals right now. So, woo.
If you're a Yankee fan this offseason, it's Ohtani or bust. Like you need help.
Yeah.
Garrett Cole needs help. They need all sorts of help. They need help in a bad way. And then you got the Dodgers ripping off, international pieces. We just got another pitcher from Korea for $900,000. Going and getting these guys. If you're a Yankee fan, you should be slightly concerned. Look at the teams like the Braves who are doing well. Look at their own league. Baltimore is good and they're young. They are young. Yes, they're gonna have to figure out how to, they're gonna have to kind of choose some of the same medicine that the Braves, the Dodgers, these kinds of teams have been around for a little bit in this leadership role, in these leads. Because again, it's easy to keep your pieces when nobody knows about your pieces. All of a sudden, when agents start coming and knocking, ask Billy Bean over there with the A's. All of a sudden, when teams come and start knocking, all of a sudden you start losing guys. And Baltimore is no longer want to be the farm team for the Red Sox and for the Yankees. They don't want to be that anymore. They want to be the dog. They want to be the dog. They're showing that right now. I love to see it. I'm glad the Rays are coming back. Huge note of that. I'm rooting for the Marlins. I'm not going to lie. I love that story. Miami, keep it going. I know, Derek Jeter was on the hot seat for a little bit there. He was like, what is he doing over there? He let go of Christian Yelich, let go of Giancarlo Stanton, right? Like, it was like, what is this guy doing? He had a fire sale. Well, what he was doing, he was building from the ground up. And now we're starting to see when you build it from the ground up, you don't base it off of these stars. He realized, he knew what it was. He could have kept Yelich and he could have kept Giancarlo. But what were they going to do with him? They didn't have the pieces. They were going to go out and get all these big money pieces. Ask the Padres how that's working out for you. You cannot just go spend money frivolously and expect it to work. Look at the Mets. You can't do it. He let go of those pieces. He said, look, we're going to build from the ground up. We're going to bring in some guys. We're going to bring in some pieces. We're going to draft well. We're going to go international well. We're going to do it all well. And we're going to start just building a thing. And it's taken some years. But if you stayed with him, look at them now. Making the playoffs is a huge deal for them. And then, of course, like you said, the National League race is insane, Big Z. It's insane. When you look at the Cubs, you look at the Reds. I mean, when I was writing notes, they're just not giving ground. They're just not giving ground. It seems like the Diamondbacks were falling back, and the Diamondbacks like no. Diamondbacks like, no, we're not missing the playoffs. And the Giants started giving ground like, we're not doing it. We're not giving ground. So you got the Giants, the D-backs, the Cubs, the Reds, the Brewers are right there. Like you said, they're only 4 games separated. And for those who are listening, like, hey, you just said the Padres are 5 games back. Like that, you're showing a double standard. We're talking about 4 games back from the lead in their division, right? There,
Right.
the Padres are something like 13 games back from the Dodgers. That's not what we're discussing. We're discussing 4 games back for the lead in their division. So even if for whatever reason something went horribly wrong, let's say the Diamondbacks and the Giants went on like just a hot tear, they just started beating everybody. These teams are still close enough to make the playoffs by winning their division, which is huge.
Right.
I mean, look at the guys like Cody Bellinger balling.
Right. Right. Let's not forget the Padres are 5.5 games behind the Cincinnati Reds for the wild card. So like if you're talking about, we're bashing on them, well, for good reason. Like they're almost 6 games back of the Cincinnati Reds. They're 5 games back the Miami Marlins. They don't know how to roster build. They have great individual talent, but that doesn't mean you put a good team around on the field. So that doesn't always equate to wins. That's all we're saying. It's apparent in baseball. It's not how it works. In basketball, yes, you could do that. But football, baseball, hockey, that doesn't work. I love it. I think that the NL wildcard is going to come down to probably the last week of the season, which makes that baseball even more fun to watch. When you have the Phillies, the Cubs, the Reds, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, the Marlins, and maybe even the Padres will be there. Like that's just going to be so fun to watch, so dramatic. And it's great, man. It really, really is. This is why baseball is the best sport in our opinion, because the funnest things happen, the craziest things happen, the craziest plays, the ball bounces just the wrong way for one team. Like it's baseball. Like if you don't know what we're talking about, like get that MLB TV discount at the end of the year. It's $20 right now. Go hop on. You can watch any team at any time and go enjoy it. It's really fun to watch.
It's great to watch. And the biggest thing about it, and people may not realize, I hear a lot of complaints from people who don't necessarily watch as much baseball as we do, because we watch a lot of baseball. The season is so long. But it's great because every night you don't need to worry about what to watch. And I don't sit in front of the TV every night. I'm not going to lie to you. I got baseball here. I take the kids to practice here. We just play games some nights, whatever it is. But when you want to, you don't have to wait till Sunday. You don't have to wait till Thursday. Every night there is a great game of baseball going on, and you're teaching your kids the game like I am right now. It's great because you get to see the guys do it. You get to see the big dogs do it. And then, of course, you get to see all these beautiful stadiums, and that's also cool, which is travel. Go around, check out these stadiums. I mean, these stadiums are historic. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful. I would never go to certain places, okay, just for fun, right? Like if you're like, go to vacation, I'm going to Hawaii, right? Like that's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to vacation. I'm going to Hawaii, right? I'm going to Cabo, right? Like I'm going to go places where like vacation spots. But some part of me is also like, Baltimore sounds kind of cool. I want to check out the Baltimore Stadium. It looks dope. Like I want to go to Wrigley, right? I want to see the Ivy Wall. There's all sorts of really neat stuff, dude. I love baseball. I'm enjoying watching. I'll tell you who else I'm enjoying watching, dude. De La Cruz. Every time I turn on the TV, this guy is just putting out a freaking highlight. Just rounding the bases, almost laps his teammate. His teammate's like slowing down, and De La Cruz like, dude, don't slow down. I'm right behind you.
Coming for you, bro. I'm coming for you, dude.
It looks like one of those races. When you see like the kids like racing around the base pads, and they're like, oh, God catches their friends. It's like that's what De La Cruz looks like. He's like, I'm coming for you. And his teammate's like, oh God. But it's so much fun to watch. I just keep an eye on it. Big Z, this has been fun. Big Z, say bye to the people.
Guys, we love you guys. Keep an eye out. We have a bunch of stuff coming at you on social media. Listen to the fantasy football stuff. What Fredo said. Send us your teams. We'll shout you out on social media. We'll ask the community what they think of your team. If there's any advice, any trades, whatever it is, send that stuff to us. We'd love to help you out or just love to talk to you about it. Just tune into baseball. Tune in to baseball. Like we said, we're just going to keep bashing you over the head with it until the playoffs are over because it's the greatest sport of all time. Love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Love you. Watch some baseball. Watch some NFL. College football's coming back. Don't forget about that. Don't be sleeping on that. We'll definitely be taking a look at some of those rankings. We're taking a look at some of those rankings. Don't worry. We got you. We'll talk about it, whatever it is. Brevity Sports. We talk major news and major sports. We'll end this as we always do with a very simple thank you for listening.